Hello and welcome to this Google Cloud Platform tutorial. In this video, I'll be showing you how to deploy a Python web server to App Engine in a flexible environment. So, to get started, we need to go up and get to the Google Cloud Platform console. Okay, with the console loaded, we're going to need to create a new project, which is where we'll deploy our code. So if you select Project and Create Project, and a dialog window will appear which gives us the ability to enter the project name. Now you need to be careful to enter something unique here because by default the project names form the URL of the application. Okay, so that's done. Once that's created, the project dashboard will appear like this, and we can click in the top right to activate the Google Cloud Shell. From the Google Cloud Shell, if you select Files and Launch Code Editor, we'll be able to write the Python code that will form our app. Select File, New Folder, and give the folder a name. Now this is where we'll just put all of our code. Now we're going to need 3 files. The first is app.yaml. Now the YAML file contains our configuration data. We're also going to need a requirements.txt file. Where we're going to specify any additional libraries that we need to deploy our application, and then finally main.py, which is where we'll put the main body of our Python code for the web app. Okay, so if we start entering then, the first thing we need to do is import the logging library, and also from Flask we're going to want to import Flask. Now Flask is just a web templating library written in Python, which lets us really quickly build web apps and does a lot of the heavy lifting for us. So we're going to declare a variable here called app and assign Flask that, and pass to Flask the name of our application there. Okay, and then we want to specify the routes for our app, and because this is a basic one, we just want to handle everything in the same way, so we're just going to deal with / there. Then we're going to define a function that we want to be called whenever somebody makes a web request on that path, which of course catches everything. So we're just going to have a simple function here called hello, and I'm just going to have that return a very basic string, hello YouTube, just so we know that the web server is working and we can respond to browser requests appropriately. Okay, so the next step then, and I'm just showing you this as a bit of a how-to, you don't really need to do this for the web server, but if you wanted to test it locally, this bit of code would allow you to do that. So we're just going to check that if the name of our application, so where our application is being called from is main, we're going to specify that we want our app to run on localhost, which is this IP address, 127.0.0.1. and on port 8080, and we're just going to set debugging to true as well. And this will just make it so that when you're testing your changes locally, you can deploy them to a web server and view them in a browser. Okay, so that's it. That's all we need for the Python body of code for our web app. We're just going to handle all requests in exactly the same way. So let's move on to the configuration file then, app.yaml. So if you open that up, we're going to want to specify a few things here. For instance, the runtime environment, which is of course Python, and that we want to run in a flexible environment, and that just allows it to dynamically scale to meet our customers' demands. Then obviously we're going to want to specify an entry point. Now just trust me here, gunicorn -b, this command will specify the entry point for our application and deploy our web server for us. And obviously we want to forward the port, and the entry point is of course our main .py file there. So just finally, as a bit of an aside, the runtime config here is how you'd specify a Python version if you wanted to. By default Python 2 is used, but I'm going to just specify Python version 3 here. Now that's not a strict requirement, but I just wanted to show you how to do that if you wanted to. So let's move to requirements.txt. Now there's a couple of terms there that you may or may not be familiar with. The first is Flask. As I said, Flask is just a templating library that lets us really quickly build out web applications. And the second is G Unicorn or Green Unicorn. Now that is a WSGI, which is a web service gateway interface written in Python, and basically that just does the heavy lifting for us and automatically deploys our web app. Okay, so with those specified, we can go back to the Cloud Console and list everything there. So we can see the Python demo files there, and I'm just going to change to that directory, and then run the command to deploy the application, which is of course gcloud app deploy. Just approve the URL and hit enter, and it'll progress for us. Okay, so that's deployed now. It may take a bit longer on your machines. Obviously, it's faster when you do it for subsequent deployments, but the first time it can take a little while. So if you copy this URL here, that's where it thinks it's deployed your code to, and paste that into a new browser tab. There we go. We can see that's the string I told it to return. So we've managed to write and deploy a very simple web app that in this example just returns a string, but you could very quickly extend it to start to return web pages, etc. Thank you very much for watching, and look out for more videos on this channel soon.